Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're gonna do I don't know, probably like half an hour or an hour of just kind of sort of finalizing sculpting on that mask. Not really final, but I want to get it to a point where I can put it on that printer like I was talking about. It'll probably be the last of the little mask sessions for a little while because I've got a bunch of stuff I got to do, but I want to get that printer reviewed as soon as possible while it's still really new. And I want to print this thing on here first. So let's go back into ZBrush here. I'm going to go back into the full screen, me in the corner setting, which is boo boo right there. Look at that. And then we'll go to ZBrush, and hopefully I'm recording properly. We'll find out. We're going to load our tool, which is, look at this, desktop, TikTok reference, blue alien mask. So we're still on version 4. I should probably save a new version, but it's okay. So I'm just going to pull this in, and I'm just going to kind of start sculpting on this. And again, today isn't quite so important that I get anything like super finalized finished, but I just want to get it so I can put it on the printer. So I'm going to try to detail it out. And this room is not super cold, so my fans are already kicking on. I think that was happening last time too. So anyway, I'm going to turn on symmetry, which is X. Boop. And you see if when I hit the X, you can see when I move here, I just have the the representation of where the brush is going to be, little circles. And if I hit X, then I get another dot, and that means that both sides will move. Now, if you're watching me do this, you're going to hear me say these same things over and over. I think it's helpful to people that are new to just see it, multiple times. Because if I say it once and then you go back to try to figure out, oh, how do you do that thing? You have to shift through my videos 1,000 times. So I'm going to try to narrate as I switch tools as much as I can. This is just to sort of like bring this to the surface. There's a little booger right there, but not too concerned yet. And the back, I want to make the representation kind of right, like it's a mask. Now, when I make the real one, I'll sort of feather this edge into my skin a little bit. I don't want it to be too thin, where it's hard to get it to pull out of the mold properly. Because sometimes if you get these really thin edges, you might lose them in the casting, and I don't want that. Another thing too, I mentioned this before, but I like these masks to be kind of long so that you can tuck them into clothing easily, and it's much easier to trim down a mask like this than it is to recreate an edge if it's not long enough. So I'd rather have more material here around the this little, what do you call this, like the bib, I guess, that kind of goes around. I'd rather have there be a little more material here than less. Too much rather than too little. So I am using a symmetry just because these are the parts that need to be equal. I will be turning symmetry off again when I start getting back into the more surface details, because I just want it to feel more unique. It's a little booger down here. Let's isolate this and look at how that's happening here. Oh, let me show you guys something. So this selection tool, which is Control, Shift, and Drag, makes the selection. It's doing both sides because the symmetry is on. If you want that to be a lasso, you go to B, S for select, and then L, which is over here. You can click on it. I just hit L, and now it'll give me this pop-up. I just turn this off till next restart. That just means anytime I change a selection brush, it will not give me that pop-up, because it kind of warns you, if you make a selection like that, a brush adjustment, that isn't your current brush, and it's one of your special selection kind of brushes, it'll give you a pop-up. But I know that I'm changing it, so it's okay. But if I turn off the symmetry, now it's still Control Shift, but now you can make like a selection and work on the pieces you want. I find this to be handy just for getting around. Now to zoom in like that really quickly, I'm circling my piece, and then I hit the letter F, and it just fills the screen. I guess that's for fill. I don't know exactly what the F stands for, but it fills the screen with the part. And if you hit F again, it'll go back to basically like the constraints of your hole where the model would be. So if I turn it back on, you can see it goes from top to bottom. So that's where that is. I'm going to change this material and look at it with something like this. Since this is going to print in a gray resin, I'm going to try to maybe sculpt in a gray material. And you can see how the different matte cap materials emphasize shapes differently. And I mentioned this in the last video, but it's good to go through and test different materials, because sometimes what looks like a really strong detail in one material might actually be pretty weak when you see it in person. So, switch around and check to, just see if the details are holding up under different conditions. And if, like, change this is material, this green, which one is it? The green Roma. So it represents a green Roma clay. This is a pretty good one to work in. You can see that our surface textures are, starting to look semi-realistic, and this is done pretty quickly. And I kind of fiddled with the neck the other day, so you can see I'm missing some detail there. So we're going to go back to the detail, and I just switched this, but I'll go through this again. To switch the brush, I'm going to go to the Damien standard, which they call Dam standard now, but it stands for Damien standard. It's B, D, S, and now that'll bring that brush up. It's already selected, so not that exciting. Now this is a great brush for doing these little kind of like line details, wrinkles, and so forth. It gives you like a kind of a sharp, crisp little groove. And if you go the reverse and pull it up, it does this kind of thing. See that? Yeah. So anyway, I'm just gonna go through here, make some generic wrinkles. And again, these are kind of the main forms to get you your big gnarly lumps and so forth. And then you can go back 2 or 3 times and do finer and finer wrinkles over that. And those finer wrinkles are going to sort of soften your main wrinkles, which is normal. That's good. So, it's not bad to over sculpt these a little bit and then come back and refine them, smooth them, and hit them up with some different materials. And if I did this right, yeah, symmetry is off, which means that this weird stuff in the front isn't going to mirror itself and look strange. And some spots like this where I kind of started and it still kind of looks a little too mirrored to me. So I'm probably going to smooth this out and then just make this wrinkle just a bit different, so it's not the same. A similar wrinkle, but not the same wrinkle. Yeah, so there we go. Same on the neck over here. And the old mask, the actual mask that I'm working from, it has this big lump of skin down here around the neck, which was mainly so I could get my head into the mask, is why I kind of sculpted it big right there, but this one won't need that. Again, I've repeated this probably a few times if you've watched the other videos. It is going to be kind of nice too to see this as a physical item, even though it's going to be small. Just kind of give me a little bit of an indicator of how it might turn out. I can see things. Sometimes just having a printout or being able to hold it in your hand is really, really valuable for spotting things that in ZBrush might be tricky to see. So, if you have the option to make a physical version of something you're working on, it doesn't hurt to maybe make 1 or 2 versions of it just to get a good look. Now, as Don Lanning would say, we're going to use the power of the X, meaning that we're going to make a wrinkle in one direction and then another wrinkle that kind of crosses it. And when you make a lot of these, they start to really look like more realistic. And as we do this, I am trying to make wrinkles that would contextually make sense to this creature. I don't want to not randomly just drawing whatever, but I'm trying to emphasize where I think skin would stretch and fold. And then, typically, like if you pull your mouth, you're going to be pulling, the skin is going to be pulling this way on the corners, and then you may move your mouth like a different way, and you get various points of flex on your skin over and over and over. So you know, if he's getting wrinkles here from making like, you know, an ooh sound, but then he may get some wrinkles that go across this way from, you know, showing his teeth or something. So having some, you know, different directions is basically what happens in nature. You go like look at a person with some wrinkles, or if you have some wrinkles yourself, you can examine. It can be very handy. So yeah, pretty fun. Now, these wrinkles here read too strong in my opinion, so I'm gonna try to like break them up a little bit. I don't mind if they're kind of like big gnarly wrinkles around the mouth, but they look very placed. They don't look natural right now. So I'm gonna break them up a little bit. I'm just gonna really quickly just go over them in some different directions. And I kind of still want the main wrinkles to kind of go in one direction, but if I break it up and give them some different kind of directional lines, it makes it feel like it's something that could have really happened. A little bit of the pucker effect on the lips there. And the chin being like probably a little bit bony and some fat over it, might not have that many, depending on what kind of faces a person makes. We'll add some around the lips here. And sometimes it might feel like you're going a little too strong, but if this is being made in a slightly translucent material, a lot of the wrinkles are gonna not be that visible, even if you think they're sort of heavy. They're gonna kind of blend in. So again, I'm making these masks hopefully out of silicone. That's the plan. Although this first 3D print that I'm going to do is going to be resin, but the resin itself is slightly translucent, so I'm assuming some of these are going to be toned down quite a bit. And now I want to give a little bit of distinguishing features here, but I don't want them to be so distinguishing that if I make 2 or 3 of these that they stand out from each other, or that they look like they're being replicated. So, you know, up close, I want it to look kind of natural, but if you have 3 or 4 of them together, I don't want it to be like noticeable, like, oh, look, that one has the exact same wrinkle as the one next to it. You know, that kind of thing. So, I'd rather make it a thing where if I want to add a little bit of extra, I can do it after the fact, like even as maybe like almost apply like a prosthetic to the mask, to make each one unique as opposed to, you know, sculpt that detail in there. I'd love to make a puppet version of this. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should make like a medium size one as a puppet out of silicone. That would be a really good experiment to see, actually. I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. That would be quite fun. Might even be the way to go. I can make it like this big, half scale. Hey guys! And then maybe have like this Boglin style like little eye mech to like make the eyes move around or blink, you know? That would be kind of awesome. So anyway, and another thing too is, since I'm going to be printing this, I will be able to tell if the you know, how this detail is reading. If it's too much, then I can tone it down before I do the real version, and if it's too little, then I crank it up. So no big deal either way. And it's definitely more wrinkly. No, it's actually not too much more wrinkly than my initial mask. A little bit. And we're going to look at the areas. Like, a lot of times people will get wrinkles along the back of their necks just from the sun, around the mouth, around the eyes. I feel like the way these eye stalks are designed, they are more bony than like flexible skin. Like, I picture this alien as not having super expressive eye movements. You know, maybe a little bit, but I picture it being mostly like the lower face. And even when I was doing the design, I think back when I think there might actually be video of me sculpting the original clay one on my YouTube page somewhere. I gotta look, and I probably talk about that in there about the eye design being. Let's turn. Yeah, about the eye design being more like a bony kind of thing. So I'm trying to think where, like, if I do some wrinkles, like maybe around here, like maybe the stocks can flex a little bit or something. So like a little bit here, and even just getting some wrinkles in this area just from, turn off symmetry, I had it on. Getting wrinkles up in this area just even from the lower face movement, like when, like if you squinch up your mouth, it affects your cheeks and that can push into your eyes. Even if you're not really like moving your eyes very much, you can still get like wrinkles up higher. So I'll add some gentle wrinkles up here. I feel like my brush is, there we go. Make it really small so these lines are tiny. Now I can also turn up my resolution on the actual alien head. Right now it's at like 1.599, 1.6 million we'll say, for the whole head, which is okay, but it's not high res in the scheme of like its sculpture. So I could go, you know, easily 4 million or so would be maybe a better, more accurate kind of sculpting surface. However, I feel like these initial stages, it's not as important. So if, I think I talked about this before as well. I keep saying that. I think I talked about it because I think I did, but I have no idea. I talk to myself a whole bunch too. So sometimes I'm like thinking about videos and I'm talking out loud, and then I'm later I think I put it in the video, and then I watch the video and it's not in there. I was like, yeah, I could have sworn I said that thing, but just because I'm talking to myself regularly, I'm essentially talking to myself right now, and I'm assuming somebody's gonna see this, but I don't know. So anyway, and outside of like the sculpting thing, I think I mentioned the other day that I was going through and I found a bunch of old videos from my phone. I've got a couple projects that I did that I want to put on video. I've got one. I did a one of these Death Star art pieces for Rancho Obi-Wan, where they had an auction recently, and I documented some of my process of making mine. Unfortunately, they couldn't sell mine in the auction because I had like a bit of a franchise crossover. And apparently, it wasn't in the rules to not do that. And they're going to keep it at Rancho Obi-Wan apparently, but they couldn't put it in the auction because I did a franchise crossover. And so what I did, if you don't know about this, is, you guys probably don't, Rancho Obi-Wan, which is the largest Star Wars collection in the world, it's the largest Star Wars memorabilia collection, like toys and so forth, and there are some screen use things there as well. They did like a charity auction, and they made these, they're cast off of some existing item, like it looks like a Death Star, the little base, the Star Wars on it. And somebody made a mold of those and cast them out of resin. And they sent them out to a bunch of different artists to customize, make them into whatever. And then they would sell them at their charity auction. Well, I made mine into a xenomorph egg from Aliens. So it's like the bottom's like the Death Star, but the top has like the little weird, gross, like, you know, like the xenomorph eggs that you see in the Alien and Aliens franchise. And it was real fun. And at the time when I was doing it, I wasn't allowed to share anything about it. So I took all this video and I tried to get time lapse of like creating a dumb thing and all this stuff. So got that. I took a bunch of video yesterday, totally unrelated to making things, but I went on a trail run, Mount Baldy, and I kind of got some clips there, and also tried to discuss my my gear that I was wearing, which most people watching this might not be interested, but I find videos like that to be helpful to me, so figured I would talk about it. And I took like 40 minutes of video and it's too much. It's just too much crap, and also might be my worst camera work in a very, very long time. I was watching some of the video, I'm like, I can't watch this camera's moving way too much. Yeah, Mount Baldy is probably one of the biggest mountains in my area. I think there's one other mountain in Southern California that's taller, called San Gorgonio. But Mount Baldy's over 10,000 feet. It's one of my favorite spots to go locally. It's about an hour from my house. And, jeez, man, I went up there and I was trying to go almost as quick as I could while still like recording stuff. And so while I'm recording, I'm moving almost the whole time, and I'm breathing really hard, and I'm trying to talk to the camera. The camera's shaking. So I don't know. I'm trying to discuss my choices of attire for the day. Now, again, probably not interesting to people who are here to see things about ZBrush, but if you are a trail runner or thinking about doing trail running or ultra running or anything like that, this could be something that is interesting to you or maybe insightful. And it's hard to see what people like, because people that come here to watch ZBrush, I don't know what their other interests are, just like most people that see me doing ZBrush don't know all the other things that I do. So I've decided to start just sharing more and more just stuff on this channel as well, because I really want to like keep my content going. And when I'm just showing stuff that I'm making, sometimes I can't show anything for months at a time, and then my channel kind of stagnates for a while, and then I'll come back and make some videos, and then it'll be like silent sometimes for a couple months, and I hate that. When I go on there, I'm like, man, I should be posting stuff to YouTube. So anyway, maybe there's some overlap here with people who are interested in physical activities as well and don't just sit at a computer all day, like myself. I like to get out and move around as much as possible. And that goes into the whole thing with like doing the droid stuff or doing creature performance. I get a lot of questions about that, and one of the things that's really important to that is being fit enough to perform those things and being able to have some endurance to stay in those suits all day. So the running and cycling and all those things that I love to do already are also very, very useful and I think necessary for doing suit work. If you don't have endurance, you don't have stamina, and even like just a conception of what it's like to be like ridiculously uncomfortable and get through a situation, that all those things are highly beneficial to doing being in a costume for a long time. And so I don't know, figure it's good to talk about. So yeah, so I'll post that video. I have it in the editor, but I have like 40 minutes of video, and I'm gonna cut out probably half of it. And at one point, I show off my windbreaker. that's awesome, and it breaks down into this like cool little, I don't know, it folds in on itself, so it's really easy to stow away. You know, if you need to run a long distance, you can carry it real easy. Anyway, I go to do a demonstration of how it stows away, and I'm like wearing these tiny running shorts, which look ridiculous, but they're great to run in. And I think that the angle I'm sitting at, you can see up my shorts too much. And maybe I'm just being self-conscious, but I was like, oh my god, I can't show this. You can practically see my butt cheek. So, anyway. Now, I'm still going here, obviously, with these wrinkles. Now, this is the kind of a time when you can sort of zone out, and like I can just talk about whatever because I'm just doing wrinkles, just creating wrinkles. And they're all kind of radiating here off of this mouth area, what I think would move in the mouth, and considering like what would fold and where it would fold, and trying to, you know, hopefully emphasize those in a way that looks realistic. And as I mentioned before, these are kind of like the initial forms here, And when you get real into it, when we turn up the resolution, we can go in and add like real fine surface detail. I'm not even sure how much that super fine surface detail is going to show up in my mold if I'm doing it on an FDM printer. And this thing's pretty big, so I don't think that I could fit this on even like a Pt03, one of those resin printers. Might be tricky to fit this in, but that would be a really great option to make the mold out of, is resin, if you can get a printer big enough. Maybe I will, for the puppet version, do a very high res resin printed mold. Now, I don't have a printer here now that's big enough for that, even a puppet version, but I have a few friends that have a Pt03 Phenom, which will fit that, so maybe I can throw them a few bucks to produce that for me. It'd be pretty interesting to see it, I think. Now, as far as silicone choice here, I'm probably going to go with like a smooth-on dragon skin silicone, pigmented, and maybe put some flocking in it, which flocking kind of gives it like those little capillary looks, which is pretty cool. All right. Time is it? 10:41. It's actually raining here today in LA, which is strange. I was going to be doing some fiberglass work outside, and I'll still be doing it today, but it's going to happen in a little bit, not this moment. So, little wrinkles around the nose. I figured these nostrils are probably going to, oops, I don't want that one. Probably going to move a little bit when this guy sniffs and whatnot. So, and this is a good spot where you can have some of those, major crossing wrinkles. Is Dynamesh on? Let's see. Geometry. Dynamesh. It is on. It's cranked all the way up too, so I might actually have to. You see here? Let's re-Dynamesh. Oop. Yeah, Dynamesh is all the way up. So, and we're only at 1.688 million polys, so I might actually have to go past Dynamesh, or there are some ways to affect the amount of resolution Dynamesh has, but I don't mess with that much, so I got to experiment a little bit before I go on camera and try to show you guys and fumble around for like 20 minutes. But for today, we're going to get where we need to get to, I'm sure. Without a problem. I don't want it to look. Let's look at some other materials here. So we've got this material, I feel like, is another good one that kind of looks sort of realistic. It kind of gives the impression of what it's going to look like when it's made out of resin. It's not quite opaque. It has the feel of subsurface scattering, which I think is good. Now, typically with these wrinkles, they are going to, you're going to catch them folding in certain places like this. And then when they cross over like a tendon or something, like here, they're going to maybe bunch up a little bit more. The skin is going to kind of bunch up along the surface, so it kind of creates like a little bit bigger chunkies. Let's back up and look here. Not too bad. Some weirdness under here. Is that on both sides? It is. Let's give them a little bit around here. Maybe these things act a little bit as eyebrows and can move a little bit. Maybe his forehead can crinkle. How did I do it on this other guy? Yeah, I did these like. Grab this mask here. I kind of went off with the reference. So I gave it some crinkles here, like maybe his nostrils can come together. So I'm gonna maybe like recreate those a little better coming up. But then up here, I kind of pictured these bones along the top, right up here. This is almost like the equivalent of a collarbone shape, where it's like just a bony mass here that kind of supports these eye stalks. That's what I pictured in my head. So you know, kind of leave those pretty taut, and maybe add back some of these wrinkles. Now on my blue mask, the nostrils are actually a little closer together than they are on this one, which is, I think, just due to the mask being bigger overall, and I want this one to be a little smaller, but I still have to be able to see out of those nostrils, so that kind of informs some of the choices a little bit. So I'm gonna gently, I feel like it's like full pressure. No, I guess not. Add some wrinkles back in here. However, I don't like the way it's a little too brutal. There we go. That's a little better. And cross them up a little bit just to give the impression that it might scrunch a little more in this area. And I had some more in this area too, kind of like radiating out of the nostril. Oh, there goes my phone. Again, always getting messages while I'm working. And this is exactly why people write me all the time. They're like, why don't you pick up your phone? Because I'm usually in the middle of something like this, where my hands are busy and I'm concentrating. And if I pick it up and I get distracted, it gets very, very difficult for me to start working again, especially when I'm working on the computer. It is. I enjoy doing ZBrush quite a lot, but I hate sitting at a computer, which is not a good combination. And I think it has to do with the fact that I sat at a computer for like years and years while I was doing architectural renderings, and it just got to the point where I could barely sit still, which goes back into like my, you know, running and riding bikes and so forth. I have to do that, I would say, at least 5 times a week. I need to do something outside, exercise, ride a bike, run, something, because I will lose my mind if I don't. And when I work at a computer, I am sitting down for the longest amount of time. It's very, very hard for me to sit here. Very hard for me to sit here. Like, just to do this video this morning, I was going to start this at like 8 o'clock in the morning and work from 8 to 9, which is kind of my morning wake up hour. I usually end up working, but it's kind of like I have like a mental thing where I schedule my actual work to start at 9. And now I work freelance, so this is just my own enforced kind of like schedule. I usually end up working like right when I wake up, but I give myself the free time until about 9 o'clock to kind of do other things. And I was going to do this, and then I got distracted by something else, and now it's now it's become its own deal. And now it's whatever time. It's 10:48 in the morning. Typically I'd be outside working or working on something, but what I had planned is kind of getting rained on right now. I have areas covered where I can work, and so I'm not in the rain, but I'm waiting for I like when the humidity is a little bit lower when I'm working with resins and so forth. I think the resins cast better once I'm done. So today I've got to do some fiberglass work. I have to make a few castings of things, and I've got a couple other projects that I'm got to work on. I have another client gig I got to go assess in a little bit and figure out what I'm going to do. So, plenty of work for today. No. I got these like real generic ears. Now, my actual piece here kind of has these super simplified ear shapes, which are fine. I kind of just want a little accent of a hole. I don't want it to look like a human ear, so I'm trying to, make it not overly noticeable. And basically just a little hole that I can put in the mask to help me hear when I'm wearing it. But I don't want like a big ear, just a little hint of an ear. Now, let's see here. Anything standing out? I think I have like a little bit of wrinkles down here. Real soft. I don't want a lot here, but maybe just some natural weight of the skin or something, just kind of creating some surface imperfections. And these are going to be real light, so I want these to not show up a lot. Maybe something around the eye. Little gentle things here. What's funny is when I started this, my inspiration was, how do you say his name? Reiz, the three-eyed thing from Jabba's palace was kind of my initial, like, there's something about that I liked, and when I started it, I had those kind of eye stalks in mind, but I didn't want to have 3 of them. I just wanted to do 2, sort of similar, and I ended up toning them back. They were too far forward, and I kind of, like, minimized them a little bit. Now, these wrinkles are probably, I don't know how I like these. These are just experimental and sort of whatever. They're probably going to blend out once I get in there a little better. But yeah, so anyway, I changed the eye forms a little bit, but that was kind of my initial, like, I don't know, inspiration. But I don't know, with music it's the same thing, where I can write some piece on the guitar and my inspiration and what the actual music sounds like are totally different. Like, if someone heard it, they would probably not put it together, what inspired me to write said piece of music. Or sometimes they think something different, and I can see why. Like, once I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of does sound like this other thing, but may have not been at all an influence on me. And that isn't to say I don't have influences from things, because I typically do in some way. But what influences me and what the end result looks like might seem unrelated, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's some generic wrinkles. I don't know how much sense they even make, honestly. So I figure maybe these stocks like move a little bit, and then you can pick up some multi-directional kind of wrinklage going on here, but not real deep. Like, maybe they don't move a ton. So I'll just put a little bit here to hint that. Use some over the top here. And I think this, oops, no, with that big old deep one is not what I want. So anyway, that's probably enough to get started here. Put the eyes back on, put my body back in there. Alright, so let's do some, sorry about that. Let's do some a little bit more surface, kind of like smaller wrinkles, just to kind of break up these smooth spots, so it just looks a little more skin-like. So I'm going to go back to the brushes, and we're going to go to B. I'm going to go to C for clay, and I want to do a clay buildup. You don't need to, you can just use regular clay or whatever. I kind of like, I kind of like the clay buildup. You could use the standard brush. You can mix and match brushes and do the exact same thing I'm about to do. And they all kind of have slightly different effects, but work in a similar way. So you can see here, before my tablet drifts all over the place, you see here I've got my alpha channel, and it's just a square, which means if I draw, it's going to make like this square thing. Now, I don't want I don't want a square. I want it to be like a shape. So I'm going to go to this little guy here, which makes some like kind of like, I don't know, almost like a rake tool. If I pull it, boop, boop, see that? And if I push it inward, I get wrinkles that are pretty cool. So you can see they're kind of following a line. Now, when I draw, if you look right behind my cursor, there's a little red line following it around. That is the lazy mouse. So I'm going to turn that off, and you just hit the letter L, and now it won't do that anymore. Let me turn it back on so you can see. And it tries to follow the line a little more once the lazy mouse is on. But when you turn it off, it's a little more free flow. I'm going to take the Z intensity all the way down to 1, so it's really light, okay? And right now it's on add. I usually just go to subtract by hitting the Alt key, which will push inward. If you hit Alt, it pushes in, and without, it goes, it pulls the clay towards you. If you hit sub, then it reverses that. So I could just put it on sub, I guess, and go here. I kind of typically like to just use the Alt key, but out of habit. But I'm gonna just do sub just because. I'm just gonna go in here and real gently hit up these areas. And because I put the actual pressure so low, it doesn't make a giant impact on the surface, but it'll create just some generic kind of like lineage around here that when you crisscross and go in different directions and rescale this thing, it starts to just kind of look like general skin texture. Sorry, I just looked up. There's a random cat outside my house. There are all these kittens that live here now that, as of today, is that your mama cat? As of today, I haven't seen them very much, so I don't know where they all went. And I'm hoping they didn't gallivant off and get hurt or something. Sorry. Just had to look at the cat there for a second. So yeah, so if I come in here, I'll zoom in close. You can tell when I get this close that you can see a little bit of the pixels, which means the resolution probably needs to go up. But you can see when I hit the surface, it kind of helps break that up a little bit. Now, what I can do right now is I can turn off Dynamesh. It's hard for me to decide this because once I turn off Dynamesh, I can crank the resolution super high and then go in and do fine details. But if I want to do some major changes, like kind of not solidified yet with this lower section, if I do major changes, it's nice to be able to re-Dynamesh everything, because when you Dynamesh it, like just makes all the polygons really even all over the place. So I'm gonna leave Dynamesh on. But yeah, I can turn it off and then make a super high resolution down to where I can get in really close and make super fine details. But again, this little print is probably not going to be necessary. I don't think this little stuff is going to show up on my small resin printer at the moment. I think this resolution will be okay. And you can see I'm kind of like changing the size. To change the size here, you can hit the little brackets. Like in Photoshop, if you hit the left and right brackets, it'll scale up and down. Or you can hit spacebar and open up your dialog here. Oh, it just started raining again real hard. Jeez. You guys can probably hear that. So, anyway, rescale the brush kind of often. And when I'm doing this, you'll see it kind of like swap sizes like this. That's just me hitting the brackets. As I go around, it's real easy to just hit the bracket up or down and change the scale real quick versus opening the little dialog. This is still quick, but the little brackets are quicker for a minor scale adjustment. This is a thing that in Photoshop I use all the time when I was painting. This little scale key for your brush size is very convenient. And I'm just kind of like going around, following the shapes of the head, real gently just touching the surface just to kind of get rid of that overly smooth 3D model look. And symmetry is off. like I mentioned before. So what I'm drawing here is not affecting the opposite side. It's only affecting the spots that I touch. And even though it's on one, if I push down kind of hard, you can see a little bit. But the main thing is I want to make sure that there's no, like even around the eyes where there's not much, I just want to touch it real gentle just to break up those smooth spots. Just give it a little bit of a skin texture. Now, what I'm doing here with this brush and this alpha channel over here, you can make pores and you can make scales and, kind of generic scales. Like, they're not real, like, I wouldn't say like high production quality scales, but like if you just need like some generic kind of scaly texture, you can do that through this same method. I think if you're going to make really good, accurate scales, like you're doing an iguana kind of skin or something that has like those big scales in places and small scales, you really need to kind of go in and do most of them by hand. You might be able to cheat your way through the small scales if you absolutely need to, but I would recommend hand doing those things. So yeah, I'm going to go around the eye stalks and then just add a little more of these fine lines in the direction that stalk might flex, if it flexes, I guess. This. And follow the contours and so forth. And this is where, again, just like sculpting with real clay, you can end up with some happy accidents if you're using these tools that are somewhat random, and changing the size and just kind of hitting the direction. You might end up with some like cool little things that you actually end up wanting to emphasize later. So we go in the mouth, same thing, going over all the old stuff, both up and down around the mouth here. Let me scale this down a little bit. A little bit on the lips. And yeah, this before it goes to be made into like a full-scale mask or even that puppet, which is I think it's gonna be kind of a cool thing to make. It will get a really mega detail round. I think is when you sort out these little fine things a lot. Let's see. So basically, I'm going to back out right now and look around and see what spots kind of just need to be touched up a little bit. Need just a little bit of surface kind of anything. Now, some of these are just a little too scratchy looking, in my opinion, but I think they're going to be fine on this first version. I'm just going to go quick. I'm going to pull upward from this thing because I picture this being pretty taut skin, and then on the sides here could be kind of, sort of like the temple on your own head. But this would be kind of like a bony mass under the skin here. So where the skin kind of bumps up to it, you might, a little too much. You might get some, like a little bit deeper wrinkles in that area. But over the top, it'd be like the top of your head. It kind of gets smoother. And same in this area too. I picture this being a little more flexible skin over this guy here. Something about this I'm not quite sold on yet, but it'll be okay for today. We'll look at it again later, and especially that angle. I think from the front it looks fine, but from that angle, something about it is could be better. So over the top, keep going these wrinkles. Again, you see the size changing from time to time. That is me just hitting one of those bracket buttons, and by the brackets I mean on the keyboard just to the right of the letter P. There are 2 brackets right there. That will scale your brush up and down just like it will in Photoshop. So handy to know. Handy to know. All right. Let's look at it with this thing on here. Oop. All right. So this chest is kind of ugly. Let me just give a little bit here. Now, this chest, once it's an actual thing, is going to be mostly unseen. I'll still add some detail to it to make it kind of look right, but for right now, I just want to make some generic stuff over here. Oh, I'm getting more messages again. Oy, oy, oy. So there we go. That's just super generic, super generic line work on that chest. Let me get this side here too. I feel like use a little bit just stuff. Okay. So now we've got some sort of generic skin texture. Got my little guy here. Now I have the keys for this. So let me turn on the live Boolean. Which, oh yeah, there we go. And turn that on. And which one do we want? Let's turn this off. Yeah, there we go. So now it's got the essentially what it'll look like on my life cast. So you have my life cast with the keys in it, the corrected positive, and that would just help key it together. The mold would kind of go over this whole thing. So let me save this really quick since I haven't saved anything. Let's do number 5 here. Another version, just in case something gets corrupted or whatever. That means that I have at least a version to go back to. Although Zbrush has a ton of autosaves, like I have it set on some ridiculous amount of autosaves, so there's probably like, I don't know, 100 gigs worth of Zbrush documents just autosaved that I'll probably never access. But if you have a file crash or get corrupted, you can go back to your autosaves, and if you have that turned on, you can go back and there'll be multiple iterations of like every file you worked on, which sucks up a lot of space on your computer. However, it has been a lifesaver a few times for me, so definitely not a bad thing to have on. So right now this isn't a very big file, only 3,478,000 polygons for everything. That's my live cast, eyes, the whole shebang, which is pretty low. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go down here, and you can see up here I have the live Boolean turned on. Now we're going to combine all of this stuff into one subtool. And there's a couple ways I could do it. I could just merge everything together and Dynamesh it all together. Or we can do a live Boolean, which actually will cut out these keys. And so live Boolean's turned on, and you say make Boolean mesh. And I'll go up here and you can see it's doing its thing. And if all goes smoothly, let's see what it says. Boom. There we go. It was no problem. Sometimes you'll get like a little error. Sometimes the error doesn't matter at all. It'll just give you, it'll say the mesh has been created, but there was an error. And you just check it, and usually you can't see it. Every once in a while you can find out what it is, but usually it's not a big deal. And sometimes it just can't create the mesh for some reason. It'll give you a little warning. So if we get one of those, I'll walk you through what has worked for me to correct that. Let's see. So right now, what it did is it created a single mesh out of all of these pieces. Now, to get that, it doesn't automatically load it into your subtool over here. So you have to go to Insert. Let me see. I'm probably in front of it. I'll move this up. So you hit Insert here. Boop. And then right there is it says UMesh, Recover Tool. Boop. So that UMesh now, I'll put on Solo. That is the whole mesh that was created from our pieces. And if I cut it in half, and let me cut it down the middle here. If I cut it like this, it is just, just makes the outside edge of the piece, which is really handy. So we are going to take this U-mesh, which is 1.757 million polygons, and we're going to go to our Z plugin in Decimation Master, and we're going to pre-process current. Now this is going to minimize the geometry down to only about 20% of the existing. You can actually go less if you want, or higher. And this plugin is really, really great at keeping all of the detail that you have, but taking away geometry where you don't need it. So, for example, like where these keys are and everything are probably going to get really simplified. Same with the bottom here. So, you have to pre-calculate it, which is what I just did. So that was right here. You say pre-process current, and that'll just do it'll figure out what you want to do. And then you can set the percentage that you want here. So it's 20%, which is the default. You can go lower. Sometimes you can go really low and it still looks fine, but 20% usually works really well. So you say decimate current, and it just did it. Now this is 351,000 polygons. It's a lot less, but basically looks exactly the same. Can't see any difference in the surface, but it's, you know, only 20% of the file size, which is awesome. So if I go to the wire mode here, and you can see how it simplified everything. Like these, you know, it turned this whole thing into like just a handful of polygons. And if I undo that real quick, this is what it looked like before. So you see how dense the geometry is, and I'll go back, and this is how it simplified. And bottom, I'll do it again, back it up, see all of those polygons in the bottom, so many, and turn it off. Now it's really simplified because it doesn't need that much detail down there. So it's really great at that. So anyway, here's our alien. We're going to take this guy, and should I hollow him? I think I'm going to hollow him in another program. I'm going to export this now. Let's see. I'm going to go to desktop, blue alien, and alien. I'll say blue alien. Blue alien Nova3d Bene test print. And we're saving it as an OBJ file. And then I will open that in the printer software and get it all set up. But I'm going to do that for another video. And yeah, we'll go over that because there's some weird stuff with the software on that printer that I would like to talk about. So anyway, this is just kind of me rambling live while I do some ZBrush stuff. Hopefully you guys take something away from this. Maybe I did something that will be handy to somebody. But anyway, I'm going to get to it, start printing this thing so I can get my printer review on and have some stuff to share. The printer itself is really cool. Hate the software. Printer's great, but the review will get into more detail. Anyway, let me switch out here. Hopefully I've been recording this whole time. We'll see. Me full screen. Anyway, there we go. Thanks for stopping by. Hope to see you guys soon. And again, I didn't mention at the beginning of this video, but if you like this video, there's a good chance that my other topics are going to be totally different upcoming videos. So just keep that in mind. If you subscribe, my channel goes all over the place. But again, thanks for stopping by. I will see you kids soon.